Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast, sponsored by Darla Cashin of RBC Wealth Management. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TCG Folk. This week, we talk with entrepreneur Marnie Dachis Marmet. We talk about the businesses she started, juggling her various passions, and wellness in the time of COVID on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Marnie Dachis Marmet, welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to talk to you. So you had emailed me and reached out about wanting to be on the show. I don't meet many people, certainly over email, that have like multiple signature lines in their email for all of the things they do.
Yes.
You're a podcast host, you're a life coach, you're a wellness coach, you do promotions work. So I almost don't even know where to start with all of it. So I guess I'll let you start. How do you like to be known when you introduce yourself?
Well, it's funny you ask me that because I actually I'm in the process of hiring a coach to help me figure that out, because that is such a tough question for me. You know, I started out in the promotional products industry like 20 years ago. I've had my own business for a lot of years. And after not feeling fulfilled in that business and passionate about it, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I kind of went back to school, got a bunch of certifications in health and wellness coaching, and I became an integrative health practitioner, got yoga certifications, and did all this work, and then started this second business that I thought I would kind of transition into. Turns out once I started that business and was feeling fulfilled and passionate in that business, I started to really enjoy the promotional products business as well. So, and people kept telling me, oh, you just have to have a niche. You have to pick one thing and go with it. But that is not who I am. I am the kind of person that needs to have my hands in lots of different things. And so one thing just doesn't work for me. And then about a year and a half ago, a couple of years ago, I met a woman at a mastermind group, which is like a business entrepreneurial group. Mm-hmm. And we started talking. We had a lot of commonalities, and we started running some health and wellness workshops together. And I was like, hey, do you want to start a podcast? Because it was something that I had been thinking about in my mind for a long time, but I was actually really scared to do it on my own. And so she said yes. And we started the Art of Living Well podcast together. And we ended up starting a business together called the Art of Living Well. So that is now my third business, which is a partnership. And yeah, so I'm doing a lot of different things.
That's amazing. Given that there's only 24 hours in a day still, so far as I know, how do you find time to juggle all of these aspects of what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'm super organized. So I'm very type A in my organizational skills, I would say. And I have, my day very structured out. So, I get up pretty early in the morning. I get my workout in. I get my alone time in. I get showered. And then I have my day structured where on certain days I'm working on certain businesses. But obviously, when you own your own business, you can't just work on one business on one day, but it's pretty structured out, my week. So I know, Thursdays are my podcasting days, and I'm recording and I'm editing and I'm doing a lot of stuff for the podcast on Thursdays. Now, if emails and things are coming in for clients on those days, for my other businesses, of course I take care of it, but that's kind of how I structure things out. I do have 3 children. They're older now, so they don't need me as much anymore, but I try and get as much of my work in while they're doing their school hours.
And have they been in school this whole time over this last, at least this school year?
Well, so my son is in college, so he's not here. And my 2 daughters have been in hybrid school. Okay. So they've been in school 2 days and out of school the other days.
So there are those times where you're trying to, work around them being in the home also.
Yeah, like I'll send on on my phone, recording, don't come in the office, don't, don't call me, don't yell because I need it to be quiet or whatever.
Sure.
But like lunchtime gets a little crazy in the house and, you know.
Those are definitely the times that I need to be, I don't have a closed off office. My office is open, it backs into the kitchen, and recording at lunchtime can be a little perilous. So
Yes.
I've had to try to, you understand, you try to schedule your day as much as you can around your needs, but also to a degree about what else is going on in the house at the same time.
Right. Exactly.
Which, can be a challenge. So of all of the businesses, which one had come first?
The promotional products business. When I had my son, who is now 20, I decided I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. Okay. And so I was all excited to be a stay-at-home mom. And after about 6 months, I immediately was like, I can't do this. I need to do something with my mind on top of being home. I wanted to be home with him, but I wanted to work also. Mm-hmm. So I started selling promotional products, which I didn't know anything about that before I started doing it, for another woman for about 6 months. And my dad is an entrepreneur, and I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. And after about 6 months, he was like, why don't you just start your own business? I'll help you. And you don't need to work for somebody else. So I was like, okay, let's try it. There's nothing to lose, right?
Sure.
So I left that job and I started my own business, and it started pretty small, but I could really control the amount of work that I was doing alongside having my kids, which is what I really liked about it in the early days.
Okay. And then at a certain point, obviously your kids get older and it lets you ramp up as much as you feel comfortable to on the business side.
Exactly. Yep.
I find it interesting though, that the health and wellness side of what you do reinvigorated the promotional product side.
Yes.
How did that sort of connect with each other?
So I can't exactly put my finger on it, except that I'm the type of person that loves to learn and is constantly wanting to learn and grow. And I love being in school and taking classes. And I think that I just needed inspiration, and I wasn't feeling inspired after a while in that business. And I was attracting customers or clients that were kind of rude to me and difficult to work with. And so that was making the work not fun. And I think once I started to go on this own journey of self-discovery, which is really kind of what I did through all these programs that I went through, I started to get rid of those clients and decide that I didn't want to work with people that I didn't enjoy working with anymore on the promotional product side. And I started attracting clients that were doing more fun projects I was excited about. They were more challenging. So it wasn't just like, okay, I'm ordering pens and this person's screaming at me because, they want them yesterday and pens might take a week to get. So, I think I changed, and that changed my business.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does make sense. I think sometimes, I think in every job, sometimes you get to a point where you're sort of going through the motions, and you need to look for something to help invigorate it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what did it for you. So looking at the health and wellness side, obviously this last year, almost to the date, by the time this releases, when everything shut down, how much more important has that side of things become, either the coaching side and the podcast side that you do with The Art of Living Well? How much of that has the importance of that side of things changed or become heightened over the course of the last year?
You mean in terms of my business? Or?
Yes. Yeah. In terms of your business and what you do and how you structure things.
Those are my passions. I am incredibly passionate about those two businesses. And I would say, during the pandemic, those two businesses have kind of skyrocketed because people are struggling right now. People having stress and anxiety, and they're not sleeping, and maybe they're not taking, great care of themselves, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. And so people were reaching out. People wanted, through the Art of Living Well, we offer group programs. People we're looking for that community, looking for that coaching help. So yeah, it's been going really well.
And I think also in the beginning, at least for me, nobody thought that at least I didn't think we'd be doing this a year later.
Right.
No,
I for sure didn't either.
Yes. And, talking to a lot of people for an article that will have just run by the time you've listened to this, about looking at sort of the 1 year anniversary of the pandemic, synagogues were closing for 5 weeks,
right.
2 to 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks tops after Passover last year. We'll take a look at it, and everybody was sort of taking this incremental approach. And then all of a sudden it was no longer incremental. It was, we're in this for the long haul. Camp started closing. And yeah, I think we all sort of let yourself go, maybe not take such great care of yourself, but it's for a couple weeks. It's not a big deal. And here we are, 52 of them later. It's a little bit bigger of a deal.
Yep.
How do you sort of manage your own needs as somebody who's a health and wellness coach in this time with the needs of the people who come to you looking for help? Because that's got to be a hard balance to strike, I would think.
I don't think it is, actually.
Really? Okay.
For me, I have found, in terms of my own needs, the pandemic has actually given me a lot more time. That's kind of one of the silver linings of this pandemic. Whereas pre-pandemic, my life in this house was so incredibly busy, kids going every which way, activities, driving, games, dance competitions. Like, we were social plans all the time. Like, my husband's a doctor, he would do rounding in the hospital and be gone, whatever. So our life was crazy.
Yeah.
And when the pandemic hit, all of that kind of went away, and we really gained back all of this time. And the time actually has been a gift for me personally, and I think for my family, because, we've had all these wonderful family dinners and, game nights, and just all of this, like, really, even my son, when he had to come back from college, which obviously I would never wish that upon him, but he did. And so I just gained all this time with him that I normally wouldn't have had. But in terms of my own self-care, I think having that time has really allowed me to set an even healthier schedule for our household. Like, just for example, on Sundays, I spend an hour every Sunday coming up with our meal plan for the week. I come up with all our meals. I will grocery shop. If I, am using a lot of vegetables, which pretty much I always am, I'm chopping the vegetables, I'm putting them in glass jars. And when I'm shopping for those meals. I write them on the whiteboard. Everybody knows what we're eating for the week. And that was not happening, in a succinct way before the pandemic. That's one example,
Okay.
So we're eating high quality, healthy meals, pretty much 6 days a week, I would say. And then in terms of, I've come up with this morning routine. I've always had a morning routine, but now with this extra time in the morning, like I mentioned earlier, I can wake up, I can meditate, I can work out, I can, maybe do some writing. I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm in the process of writing a memoir right now too. So I can do some writing, I can make my smoothie, and I can kind of get all of this done before anybody else is up in the house. And that's really my own personal time. So part of me worries more about when the pandemic is over, I want to make sure that some of these changes are going to last that we've, created in our house.
Boy, I mean, look, I hope it does. It sounds wonderful to have that. I mean, to have that kind of together time. We, at least in our house, some activities have picked back up. So we went from definitely eating all four of us together all the time, which had never happened because of our kids' activities, to, sometimes all of us, sometimes some of us. It's sort of sporadic how that happens, which I think a lot of people are probably familiar with that struggle.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. But I think realizing how much I was missing that, it's definitely a priority now. And It's not that it wasn't. I think we just got caught up in the rat race.
Sure. Right. I mean, kid schedules get very challenging with extracurriculars and everything that they try to, and work as they get older, and it gets hard to, prioritize things the same way. I guess that's probably the best way to put it, because it can be a challenge to try to do all the, do all the things you want to do with all the things you need to do.
Right.
It's finding that balance. So you mentioned your father was an entrepreneur, and that was sort of what helped kickstart your entrepreneurial spirit. When he had suggested that you start your own promotional business, did you know that was something you wanted to do all along? Or did it seem logical to you at the time? I just guess I'm curious why people start businesses and where that comes from.
No, it is not something I knew I wanted to do. It was like, okay, why not? Literally, I mean, it was no. But once I did go through the process of starting that business and realized that it was not that hard to start your own business, I'm the kind of person that likes to do a lot of different things. So running a business was a good match for me.
Okay.
I realized that when I found these other things that I was passionate about, I could start a business doing those things. And I, in fact, had another business in the middle there that is no longer.
Okay.
But I had a run for 5 years with a friend. And, it was a more of a product manufacturing business. So it was very different.
Yeah.
But all of these experiences have, given me, I guess, insight into how to start and manage a small business. And my businesses are small. I'm not talking about multi-million-dollar businesses here.
Right.
But they're perfect for me. And they're my babies.
No, and that's awesome. I've really been lucky enough to talk to a lot of people who have started their own businesses, most of them food related, which typically makes me very hungry while I have these conversations. One of whom was your niece, Morgan, who started her own challah baking and soup broth business, which, I mean, every time I see the pictures on Instagram, I drool a little bit. They look delicious.
Have you tasted them?
I have not, because every time I think, I don't have a challah in the freezer, I'm going to look. I get to the order form and she's sold out for the week. I got to set myself a reminder.
Her rosemary sea salt challah is amazing. They're all amazing, but that's my favorite.
Sure. That's one of my favorite flavor combinations. Two of my, I love anytime I can put rosemary in something when I cook dinner. I'm good with that. So I'll have to get to the order form earlier and try to get one, because they look delicious. But
yes, they are.
But it always, I've never had an interest in starting a business, but I like talking to people who do and sort of trying to understand the why. Because I always find everybody's why is a little bit different.
Well, so I would say for me, I don't think I could work for anybody else at this point. I know that sounds terrible, but I need to be in charge of myself and decide what I do. And I think someone telling me what I need to do, even if you have your creative freedom in that job, I think that'd be really hard for me at this point. and I have a lot of ideas all the time, and I just want to be able to implement them. I don't want to have to go ask someone, can I do this? Or can I do that? Or, I'm sure there would be a lot of benefits to, working for a great big organization, but it's been too many years, I think, at this point for me.
I was going to say, you do it on your own long enough. I think it's hard to probably do it any other way.
Right.
At a certain point, right? It's you get used to the rhythms of your own workday and your work schedule and how you structure your workflow for all of your different entities that I don't know, after 15, 20 years of it, I don't know how you go back working for somebody else.
Yeah. And actually, when I got my health coaching certifications, I thought about, maybe I'll go, there's a lot of organizations hiring health coaches. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do that part-time just to get some experience when I was starting out. And I started looking around and I sent, my information in certain places, but then it's like they give you your set hours and all the things that, the paperwork you need to fill out and all the stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to try this on my own and see how it goes.
Listen, and you know what? Good for you for having the recognition that, working for somebody else, even, with these new certifications and a new opportunity, that it probably just wasn't going to fit into you and how you wanted to work.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's a tough realization. I think it's, good one to be able to have, but I think it's hard for people to get there too.
Right. Yeah. I guess that hasn't been hard for me. And I think it's just been because it's been a long time.
Yeah. So what's the hardest part for you then? I mean, it can't all be sunshine and rainbows.
Honestly, the hardest part for me is doing this kind of thing, which is why I'm trying to do it more, putting myself out there and sharing with the world what I do. That's hard for me. Maybe it doesn't seem like it, but it actually really is. So I think that, and consistently doing that,
So I don't want to let you go without talking about the podcast a little bit, The Art of Living Well, which you do with your co-host, Stephanie May Potter. Tell us a little bit more about sort of the topics that you cover, and I guess how long you've been doing the show and how often you are on in the podcast feeds. I almost said on the air, which would have dated me some, but.
So it's called The Art of Living Well podcast, and we drop episodes every Wednesday. We've been, we've had this podcast for a little bit over a year, so we have a lot of episodes now. Mm-hmm. And we do bonus episodes too, probably like twice a month. And it's usually Stephanie and myself chatting. But we talk the topics. First of all, The Art of Living Well is really about finding your art of living well, because really living well is an art and it's different for every person. So what living well means to me is different than what it means to you. And so it's a pretty open-ended that leaves it very open for us to talk about a lot of different things on the podcast. But some of the things we focus on are, nutrition, movement, mindset, travel, adventure. We talk really a lot about how wellness is a journey and it's not a destination. We've had a lot of different guests on from, amazing guests from, all different backgrounds, and a lot of it is mindset, but I love it. Like I love the podcast. I love doing it. I love meeting all these people. I learn something with every guest that we have on. So it's a lot of fun.
Boy, talking about travel, that's got to feel a little weird these days.
Yeah. So most of our travel episodes, aired before
a while ago,
the pandemic, but we did just have someone on, I think it was a few weeks ago, Lindsay Ranzow, and she's local Minnesotan. And it was about taking like trips, locally, and how you can, even a day trip, and how you can make adventure in your life in a day, or in a weekend by getting in your car and driving up north or driving to a small town. And so it was a great episode because there are ways to travel in a pandemic. So we do talk about that in our podcast as well.
Well, excellent. I'll have to go catch up on that one because I know we've talked about trying to find something to do on the weekends when we can to not be in the house.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we talk a lot about getting outside, how to create that sense of adventure or that sense of, getting out of your bubble on a day-to-day basis even, and what that does to your mental health.
And it's warming up. So I've noticed I just sort of feel better looking outside and it's sunny and it's warming up and the snow is melting. It feels good.
Yes. And hopefully you can not just look outside, but you can actually get outside, get some of that vitamin D, move your body, take a walk, breathe in that air.
Yes, I need to do more of that. Freely admit, not always my strongest suit, getting up from the desk and doing that, but definitely important. Well, Marnie, thank you so much for joining us. Last two questions before we let you go, which as you listen to your niece's show, you might remember them. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Oh boy, I didn't remember this actually.
Excellent. Surprise you with the tough ones then.
Oh,
excellent.
Wow. My favorite Jewish holiday. I like a lot of them. Maybe Rosh Hashanah.
Okay. How come?
I don't know. I like Rosh Hashanah. It's in the fall. I love, I always remember that the leaves are changing at that time of year and it smells so good outside. And my aunt does a beautiful job, at her home with the dinner, and the family all gets, my big extended family, obviously not this year, but in normal times, we all get together. I love the idea of I'm not like super religious, but I love the idea of just the start of the new year and thinking about, your past year and kind of what you want to start fresh in the new year. Yeah.
The self-reflection is nice.
And that, of course I like that, right?
Oh, it fits right into the mantra.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Jewish food?
What is my favorite Jewish food? I mean, I do like challah, which I don't even eat gluten, but I will eat challah on occasion. What else do I like? I like haroset a lot.
Haroset is my favorite Passover food.
Yeah, I mean I love haroset. I'm trying to think what else I like. I'm sure there's something big I'm forgetting. I wasn't expecting that question either.
That's all right. Haroset that's a good shout. I do not hear that one very often. Oh, it's great.
Yeah. No, I love the apples and the walnuts and the cinnamon and mixed in with the Manischewitz wine. I like haroset a lot. Frankly,
the only good use for Manischewitz, if you ask
me.
But
it works really well with that.
Yes. No, the sweetness of the wine, it really pulls it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I guess Marnie, I like falafel. I don't know if you would consider that, that's more of an Israeli
food. I have had a number of people when I've asked the question have said favorite Jewish food or favorite Israeli food. And I let them get both. So that's a good call too.
And hummus,
Yes, absolutely. Well, Marnie Dachis Marmet, thank you so much for joining us, telling us all about your various businesses, and we'll have the links to your websites and your podcast in the show notes. The podcast is available anywhere you're listening to this. I think you can probably find it, but we'll have a link to the show. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.